Hey there, Mr. Terry back, high school history teacher. Welcome back to another History Teacher Reacts video. All right, we're returning to our friend, the Fat Electrician, and he is covering one of the most popular soldiers in modern history, Simo Häyhä, the White Death. Such a good name for a Finnish sniper. So I'm super excited to learn more about him in the way that only Fat Electrician can tell. All right, link to the original video is down below. Also, make sure you are checking out his sweet merch. I bought these recently, and let's get started. Especially like this hat. It's just kind of, it's been molding pretty nicely. I have a giant head and it's hard to get hats that fit me right. And I just think it's kind of cool with the camo, and it's got the America flag stuff. I feel very patriotic wearing it.
I've been making YouTube videos for about 3 years now, and this is probably the most requested video ever.
Not surprising.
Today we're talking about the deadliest sniper.
Honestly, Simo Häyhä is one of the people I was told about more when I started doing YouTube content, about more than anybody too.
I'm Simo Häyhä, aka the White Death.
Is that how you
the
say
Finnish
it?
have a cultural concept known as sisu, and if you look at it at a glance, it can be easily confused with like tenacity or grit, but it's more than that. Sisu
this guy is such a legend.
To grit your teeth and push through adversity. Sisu is the personality trait that allows somebody to intentionally and stoically allow themselves to be immersed with adversity until they either become immune to it or become the adversity themselves. And in 1939, when a 33-year-old 5-foot-tall Finnish farmer named Simo found himself on the battlefield defending his home, outnumbered 100 to 1, surrounded by death on all sides, rather than succumb to it, he became death itself.
He sure did.
What is this?
This is Electrician.
That's the new CMMG BR4.
When did you get it?
I've had it.
Nice recovery.
No, I would have remembered.
Is he doing airsoft
like
guns?
Okay, fine. I just got it, but I had to because it's the only one they Cerakoted to look like a Busch Light can.
So you got a new toy. What do I get?
I mean, what do you want?
I don't know. I'll do some shopping and I'll let you know. So have fun with the ad.
Mayday! Mayday!
This video is brought to you by Delete Me, okay?
So that's the thing, okay? Okay, if you're married like this, okay, he can get his toy, but you know, that now means wife gets to pick something too, right? That's how that works.
Business model. You give them money, they turn around and they make sure that online data brokers are not selling your personal information online. Okay, here's the deal. Pretty much anytime you use a free service on the internet and you click that little box that says, I agree to the terms and conditions, you've basically just agreed to allow them to harvest as much of your personal information as humanly possible. They then turn around and sell that to online data brokers, and that's how
I get texts. Do you guys get spam texts?
But when you have Delete Me, they go and they monitor all of these online data brokers for your personal information, and then if they find it, they submit all the opt-out forms on your behalf, so they have to take down and stop selling that information. So when you buy Delete Me, you're not actually buying anything, you're just buying your way out of all the negative consequences of all the free shit that you've already gotten. And because they continue to monitor those data brokers, you're buying yourself out of all the future negative consequences of all the free shit that you haven't even gotten yet. So if you want to give Delete Me a try, there's going to be a link and a discount code down below. Let's get back to the video.
All right. Let's do it. Winter War, World War II.
December 17th, 1905, and grew up on his family farm, which was right on the border between Finland and Russia. Now, when I say farm, people automatically think of like some dude in a baseball cap and overalls holding a pitchfork with rows and rows of corn in the background. It wasn't one of those kinds of farms. This is what you would call a forest farm, which is a lot more akin to like what we would call a homestead today. Basically, Simo grew up in a cabin in the woods, and they had a really big garden, and they grew enough food for themselves and then had enough extra to like take it to the farmer's market and sell for money. So
living off the grid a little.
His entire life in this harsh, hilly, wooded, snow-covered, freezing environment. This is his baseline, okay? This doesn't suck to him. This is just your normal everyday stuff. Walking uphill every direction through the snow is just a good day.
So you can imagine already how good this guy's going to be in his home territory. That kind of cold and the forest. And obviously, when you live like this, you're going to be a good hunter. You know, this is exactly the stuff that guerrilla warfare has built its legacy on of success, is this exact type of thing.
To him. And this almost goes without saying, but I'll mention it anyways, that hunting was also a humongous part of how his family put food on the table, and Simo did that from a very young age as well, hunting in this harsh environment. Unfortunately, Simo was pretty intimately acquainted with death at a young age. He had 4 brothers and 3 sisters. One of his brothers passed away in 1918 in the Finnish Civil War, and another one of his brothers passed away after suffering from heat stroke on a construction site. Simo is a member of one of the last generations that didn't have the luxury of quitting, okay? Okay, this guy was born, and the minute that he could walk, he was helping his family in their fight for survival. There was no quitting. There was doing or there was dying. And if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, the point I need you to get from this is Simo's a small guy. He's only 5 foot tall. He's 110 pounds, but he literally doesn't know what quitting is. Things that me and you would call horrific circumstances is just a Tuesday to him. It just doesn't even register that he should be having a bad time. He's literally just happy to be alive. At the age of 17, following in his older brother's footsteps, Simo joins the Finnish Civil Guard, which is equivalent to like the American National Guard. Essentially, they train on weekends and they'll train a couple weeks a year, being ready in case they need to be called up by their country. But the rest of the time, he's just going back being a farmer.
In Finland today, they still have that kind of conscription that you have to serve, is it a year, 2 years or whatever? Basically, it's enough to get like basic training. And I remember learning about this because I'm a Utah Jazz fan, and Lauri Markkanen, one of the basketball players, he had to go and spend, I think it's 2 summers. Usually they would do this like consecutively, like the amount of months they have to do, but because he's a professional athlete and a celebrity, he's able to break it up over summers. I remember he missed a whole summer of, working out with the Jazz and stuff because he was out there, learning military drills. It's so interesting because he's 7 feet tall and you see him like doing these drills against, all these other little small guys. But yeah, a lot of countries still have this though. Just mandatory basic training is essentially what it is.
As a member of the Civil Guard, he is issued one of the most iconic military service rifles of all time, the Mosin Nagant, a bolt-action rifle. He's also issued a small amount of ammunition to train with, but because of budgetary restrictions, they decided it'd be more efficient to just issue all of the Civil Guard members the materials they needed to load their own ammunition. So Simo was also manufacturing his own ammo.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if you're a hunter type 2 living off the grid, you do a lot of that too, your own casings and stuff like that. But yeah, the Mosin Nagant, from what I hear, is actually pretty crappy. The thing jams a lot, and I guess maybe good for its day. You're talking over 100 years though, but that thing kind of stinks, especially compared to some of the stuff that the West was building.
During his time in the Civil Guard, he received awards for his excellent skiing capabilities as well as his physical conditioning. He is not a big man, but the dude is the Energizer Bunny. He can just go forever.
What's that Olympic
he also immediately becomes well known.
Do you do that? You ski and shoot?
Marksman. Before he received any formal shooting training from the military, he entered a regional shooting competition where they had to shoot a target 100 times from 300 meters with iron sights, and he had 93 out of 100 hits. He won a ton of shooting competitions inside of the Finnish military. Not just
with some natural
Mosin,
ability
but also
there.
With the Suomi M31 submachine gun. He very quickly qualified for the title
Wouldn't
of
that thing
master
jam
shooter
too?
within the Finnish military, and it is said that he was able to estimate range within the accuracy of 1 meter up to 150 meters away. Okay, that's literally a superhuman ability. You can just point to something off in the distance, and Simo could eyeball it and be like, it's like 89 meters away, and he was dead on every single time.
That's where you're saying that it does sound like there's a lot of natural ability there, because that is incredible. There has to be, some kind of natural things, but obviously going to have some good eyesight as well. But that whole like spatial ability it's different. Like people have that. It's a different innate skill.
And that's not even the scariest part. The scariest part was how fast Simo could operate his Mosin bolt-action rifle. He could fire his Mosin accurately, insanely fast. So fast that they actually wanted to time him one day. So his buddies got a stopwatch and they were going to time to see how many times Simo could hit a target 150 meters away with his bolt-action rifle in the span of 60 seconds. Simo scored 16 hits in the span of 60 seconds with a bolt-action rifle.
He is the one.
And just
it's hitting it more than
the
every 10 seconds.
Only holds 5 rounds in the magazine, meaning that Simo shot the first 6 rounds because there was 1 in the chamber, reloaded, shot the next 5, reloaded again, and shot another 5, hitting the target 150 meters away with fucking iron sights every single time. Okay, if you don't know much about guns, this is the only bolt-action rifle I have, but he had to do something like fire 1, 2, 3, 4,
and he's hitting the target.
Reload the gun, and then he did that 2 more times in 60 seconds with 100% accuracy. So Simo is just a natural.
And that thing again, we were saying like those guns too, they would jam. They're going to be a lot slower. Like that thing that he had is going to be so smooth. Plus, I mean, he has a scope on that. You're using iron sights for a way more inaccurate gun.
For human level shooter. So this goes on for 2 years, and then at the age of 19, he ends up joining the Finnish active military because at this point in time, Finland has mandatory service of 15 months. And Simo gets attached to a bicycle battalion, which is It's something I honestly can't decide if it's hilarious or terrifying, the image of Simo rolling up to a battlefield on a bicycle. So he serves his 15 months in active duty military.
I hope they had bells on them and they like rang the bell to terrify the Soviets in battle. Bring, bring.
Nothing really going on at this point in time. Then he goes back into the Civil Guard and continues being a farmer. And that's pretty much all he's got going on for like the next decade. He's just in the Civil Guard, winning shooting competitions, going back home, taking care of his crops, and going hunting. November 26, 1939, an event known as the Shelling of Manila happens. The real quick, oversimplified version of this is essentially Russia wants to take over Finland. Right. Finland isn't down with that, so Russia now has to come up with a reason to go to war with Finland. They can't find any legitimate reasons, so they fabricate one.
Okay, historical context here. Russian Empire, old Russian Empire that got broken apart after World War I, used to control these regions. And this was happening at this time in 1939. You had the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, where essentially Germany and the Soviet Union now are going to take territories that used to belong to their former empires. So Eastern Europe being part of that, all the way up to, Poland. And so Russia has that going on. They want Finland back.
Simply put, this is a false flag event. The Russian military shells near a Russian town near the border with Finland. They then turn around and say, well, actually, Finland is trying to shoot artillery at our town, so we're going to go to war with them. Finland obviously denies shelling the Russian town because, well, they didn't actually do it.
Germany said about Poland.
Russia, like, hey, we're willing to let a third-party independent investigator come in and determine what happened. We did not do this. Russia declines and then invades Finland 4 days later.
Oh, no!
Russia sent 150,000 soldiers to attack Finland. Okay, to put that into perspective, the total population, not the military, the total population of Finland at this point in time is about 4 million people. So 25% of the entire Finnish population is getting sent in with guns to attack Finland. Right. And those 450,000 Soviets are being backed up by the Soviet population of 168 million.
Seems fair.
Calling this a David versus Goliath type situation is putting it mildly. On paper, Finland doesn't stand a chance.
It's interesting because people talk about how difficult Russia is to invade, but Finland was like Russia's Russia, if that makes sense. It's like, all right, the Russian winters, they're very devastating. They're very cold. You have to go through that. But then Finland was like a level above that for the Russians.
But Finland does have a couple of things going for it because in the years leading up to this, Stalin conducted the Great Purge, essentially killing off all of his high-ranking and
probably half the military
leadership because he was worried that they were going to try to overthrow him. So by and large,
about half of the military
at this point in time is
purged.
Pretty incompetent. And the Finnish, well, they're Finnish. They've got that going for them. Okay, if you've read enough history, you know there's a couple of quick life hacks if you want to live a long, happy life, like don't smoke, eat a good diet, never try to fight the Filipinos in the jungle, and never try to fight the Finnish people in the snow. It's just a bad time.
Not even if you're Russian.
Really adopted the dark.
Yeah.
I was born in it.
Now, for Simo at this point in time, he had just last year in 1938 gotten formal sniper training from the Finnish military. Not that he really needed it, but he does have that title now. And when the Russians attacked, Simo was actually out in the field doing a training mission with the Civil Guard, so he didn't find out the Russians attacked until the day after when he was immediately activated and put into duty. So he gets orders, reports to the front line, and his new company commander is a man by the name of Arne Juutilainen, aka the Terror of Morocco. And this man, much like Simo, is a complete and absolute gangster, but instead of being a sniper like Simo is, he's a leader. He's leading men into battle that are going in heavily outnumbered. We're talking like 100 guys versus 5,000 men on the Kola front where they're fighting. So Juutilainen's signature move, embracing Sisu and having no fear, would go out on the front lines in the middle of battle and sit in a rocking chair with gunfire and explosions going off, giving orders to his men to show them that they didn't have anything to fear. And
hey, help remind me, if you've been watching a lot of my reactions to him, I feel like the first video I watched of his was that guy Finnish. It was a guy that was like on meth pretty much. He was like on drugs and he was like hallucinating stuff like crazy. And he ends up being like this super soldier. I'm trying to remember if that guy was from Finland. Like I want to say that. And I forgot which, if that was World War II or not. Help me remember that. Man, it's been a while. I've seen just so many episodes. It was one of the first ones I watched from this channel.
Simo is now taking orders from this guy. Okay, shit's about to get real.
White Death, such a
so
good
Simo
name
shows
for
up,
him.
They start digging trenches, laying out barbed wire, setting the front line. They end up fighting their asses off for 2 days straight. After that, they actually end up receiving orders to fall back a little bit, which they do. That becomes like Utalainen's thing. Like, we're not retreating unless we receive orders. We are going to stand here and fight till the bitter end unless ordered to do otherwise by our superiors. So they fall back, and Utalainen knows that Simo is like from this area. Like, his farm is right down the road. He knows the area. He knows the terrain. So he grabs Simo and he's like, hey, I need you to sneak behind enemy lines and start cutting all the telephone wires. To which Simo replies, and I quote, I'll try my best. And Simo's best is absolutely enough. He sneaks behind enemy lines. He's cutting all the telephone wires, just wreaking havoc behind enemy lines. Ends up making it back completely unscathed, at which point Utalainen is like, okay, this dude's super sneaky. He knows the terrain. I'm just gonna make him like my go-to sniper for all my shit. Shortly after this, on the Kola front, where Utalainen is in charge, there is a Soviet sniper that keeps taking out platoon leaders. Okay, they're specifically targeting his officers. His best
sniper
guys.
battle.
Utalainen cannot have this happen.
1v1 me, bro.
Simo, basically says, go get him. So that next morning before the sun comes up, Simo goes, has a big breakfast, and then takes off. He goes to the general area where this sniper's been operating, and he inserts himself in, and he builds a little snow berm, and he...
Okay, this is where I'm super excited to check out some more in depth, because I've heard of this story before. But the little, like, cool little tactics and stuff they would use. I'm sure Nick is going to get to it, but I'll try to add if I feel like he's missed something. But this sounds like totally just like out of a movie or a video game, like a 1v1 sniper matchup. And yeah, the Soviet dude has been wreaking havoc, but this is Simo's backyard. Like, he knows exactly where to go. He knows how to fight and what can be tactically advantageous in things like the snow. So, okay, I'm excited for Nick to go through this.
This sniper's been operating, and he inserts himself in, and he builds a little snow berm, and he packs the snow down really tight, and then he pours water all over it so that it freezes into this ice wall, and this becomes one of his signature tactics. And this is brilliant because Simo is planning ahead for failure. He is planning on missing his first shot. He never does, but it never hurts to be ready for the worst possible outcome. You see, because Simo already knows
often you get one shot
in this environment and hunting his whole life, that the first time you fire that bullet, snow is going to kick up all around you into a giant cloud. And if the other enemy sniper doesn't know where you are, they're going to know now. Right. So Simo, thinking 10 steps ahead.
And a good sniper will know that even if there isn't snow, are going to be able to track that shot. A good sniper will do that. That's why that first shot it's like everything.
And eliminates the snow factor. Gonna know now. So Simo, thinking 10 steps ahead, goes and eliminates the snow factor. He turns all the snow around him into ice so that there's nothing to kick up at all. And then he just lays there still all day long, not moving. He's constantly putting ice and snow into his mouth so that his breath doesn't create fog. So
I love that one. Just numb your mouth with cold, and it keeps that breath coming out there. By the way, these same type of skills are good for hunting too, because if you're hunting animals, it's the same exact idea. They're going to see where you are. All these are like transferable skills that you could know without going to even these sniper schools. And they probably learn that stuff anyways, but
constantly putting ice and snow into his mouth so that his breath doesn't create fog, so that there's no way of possibly seeing this guy. And he waits all day long, and soon enough the sun starts going down. And as the sun is going down behind Simo, he ends up catching a glint off the enemy sniper's scope, but he's not in a hurry, so he waits. So now he knows where the enemy sniper is, but he's patient, and he just keeps waiting, and he keeps waiting, and the sun keeps going further and further down, and it's getting darker and darker, and soon we're at the point where there's going to be nothing but starlight. And
okay, if I remember right too, because if I remember right, Simo does not use a scope either. So he doesn't worry about that glint. He's like, the glint of it, because it can really reflect off light, and that's a thing that can give away your position as a sniper. But yeah, I don't think Simo uses a scope.
15 minutes. And at that point, the Soviet sniper just stands the fuck up out of nowhere. Like it was the bell just rang and it's lunchtime at the factory. He just gets up because his shift is over.
So he didn't know,
and he starts walking back to camp, and
he didn't know Simo was
drops him one shot straight to the head.
What a...
So he probably didn't know Simo was out there then.
Back to Utalainen, hey, solved the problem, no issue. It's been like 18 hours and Simo's already got this guy down, and this guy's been wreaking havoc on his men for like a week and a half. So Simo is obviously super legit, at which point Utalainen basically just lets him off the leash. Like, hey, whatever you're doing, just fucking keep doing it. Go win. And this is what Simo does every single day. He goes out, he builds his ice berm into a couple of different locations that he has already set up, and he is just picking off Russians left and right. And unlike other snipers at the time that were trying to prioritize high-value targets like officers, Simo absolutely was not, which makes sense because his family farm is right down the road. Like his family, his friends, where he grew up is literally under attack right now. If you were wearing a Russian uniform and he saw you, you were a dead man. Simo got asked about this later in life, and he replied, and I quote, "I shot when I saw the enemy. I didn't care if they were a leader." Simo is literally
I mean, you could prioritize. I mean, that's always good. You could prioritize, but yeah, the enemy's your enemy, right?
And like it is a shooting gallery at the state fair. There are multiple days where he is logging between 10 and 20 confirmed kills. So at this point, Simo starts to get a ton of notoriety within the Finnish military, and it gets to the point where whenever there's a problem, it doesn't matter if it's a forward observer that's shooting accurate artillery, it doesn't matter if it's an enemy sniper, anywhere on the front line, they would send for Simo and they would pick him up, escort him to that part of the front line, and he would go handle the problem. And the best part about this is you got to remember, this is Finland in December in 1935. So when they send for Simo, they're sending a reindeer-guided fucking sleigh to pick him up and escort him to wherever there's a problem, and he's gonna go out and solve it. He's like the shitty inverse of Santa Claus, except instead of leaving a lump of coal in your stocking, he's gonna put a piece of lead in your fucking forehead.
No witnesses.
Santa doesn't do that. Maybe
so
Krampus.
around this point, Simo starts to gain notoriety with the Soviets, and they start calling him Belia Smrt, aka the White Death. The Soviet government...
See, it's even more badass when the enemy gives you the badass name.
Puts a huge bounty on Simo's head. They're sending in counter sniper teams to take out the White Death, and every single time Simo kills all of them. They never stood a chance. The man can shoot 16 rounds a minute accurately out of his Mosin. He's wearing white camouflage in the snow. He's turned all the snow around him into ice, so there's no kicking up snow. You can't see his breath. He doesn't have a scope to catch a glint of. He's literally eliminated luck from the scenario. He is a complete ghost, and he's just wiping the floor with the entire Soviet military. So eventually the Soviets are like, okay, we're just gonna quit fucking with this guy. We're gonna quit sending men into that area of operation where we know the White Death is, and we're just gonna focus on other areas. And Simo takes this as his opportunity to go play offense. So he goes to Utalainen and is like, hey, give me a squad of guys. I'm gonna lead them into battle. We're gonna go behind enemy lines and we're gonna take the fight to them. So Simo starts leading a squad past enemy lines at dusk every night. And
see, and that's what these guys are so good at too. Again, that training that they do, you know, where they're these expert cross-country skiers, they can cover so much ground like undetected. Soviets are going to be big and loud and all that.
They would literally ski miles and miles behind enemy lines where the Soviets think they're safe. And back there, they just have these massive bonfires that they're all sitting around eating dinner, drinking, smoking, having a good time at the end of the day. And Simo and his men would ski to within like 100 meters of them, dismount, and low crawl till they were right up on top of them. And then Simo and his men would pop up with submachine guns, mow down all the Russians, and then steal all their equipment, all their guns, all their ammo, all their food, and fucking bounce back to the front line. Okay, it's literally guerrilla warfare on ice. It's absolutely terrifying. And you gotta realize, this is all within the span of like a month. By December 25th, 1935, Simo already had over 100 confirmed kills, and his record was 25 men in a single day. So the Soviets doubled, they tripled their efforts trying to take out—
It's like just having that much ammo. Like you have 25 rifle cartridges there. Yeah, being able to take all of them down. And again, he can just like bam, 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 the speed. I didn't realize, because I knew he was like obviously super accurate, and I knew about his like stealth capabilities, but the speed is something I've learned about with him from this video now.
The White Death. They start sending in counter sniper teams with forward observers with them, and then as soon as Simo shoots one of them, they start just calling in artillery in the general area that Simo's in, but they never ever hit him. Whether it's luck or divine intervention or just fate, Simo makes it away every single time. And the best part is, every single time they try to do this tactic, the odds of them actually accomplishing their goal gets less and less, because every time they're sending in their best guys and Simo's killing them. So the quality of the men that Simo's going up against is constantly deteriorating. By January of 1940, Simo is an absolute legend with over 200 confirmed kills, 51 of which he got in 3 days. One of his other records at this point in time was he managed to take out 5 enemy snipers in a single day. Because of everything Simo's accomplished.
See, and that's especially crazy because taking out a sniper is so incredibly difficult because they're trained to not move. I mean, they sit in a place for hours or sometimes days without moving because they just sit there, and that type of rate is just insane.
Same point in time, Utalainen's boss, the general in charge of that entire front, pulls Simo back, and they have a ceremony where they award him with an honorary rifle. It's also a Mosin just like his, but it's, you know, very nice, decorative one, and they award it to him. And you have to realize at this point in time, Simo is very, very important to the Finnish war effort. Not only is he out there just being a one-man army, wrecking house, taking it to the Soviets, but he's also huge for the morale of the entire Finnish military. Like, he is the hero that everybody's looking to, like,
because it's scary.
This guy's on our side. We might be able to win this. He is such a big deal that the general's wife knits him a pair of wool mittens, okay? It sounds like just like a nice pleasantry, but do you know how fucking gangster you have to be for the general's wife to feel motivated to knit you in particular a pair of mittens?
That is cool.
That means the general is going home every night telling his wife, like, sweetheart, the White Death is the shit. He's the key to winning this war. He's everything.
Don't leave me for him.
And the wife is like, oh shit, I better do something nice for this guy because he's literally gonna save the whole country by himself. So Simo gets his ceremonial rifle, gets his wool mittens. He's also awarded a pocket watch, which at this point in time is a huge deal to have a watch. So he gets all that. And usually at this point in time, you know, bigger, more powerful countries like America would pull you back and use you for war bonds, parade you around the country. But they send Simo right back into action because they can't afford to not have him on the front lines.
He's told multiple stories about that, about these guys that, again, they're so effective, and they bring him back to parade him around for the press. And those guys will hate it. They're like, no, like, I want to be out with my men again, and that kind of thing. Like, no, you're better off here raising money for the war.
So Simo gets right back to work.
Now, Finland doesn't have that. You gotta understand, Finland doesn't have that luxury of being able to do that. They need everybody on deck here with the Soviets. With all of this that they're talking about, how successful, understand this has also been very devastating for the Finnish.
Playing cat and mouse with the Russians. Whenever they want to send men in, Simo picks them off. Whenever they don't want to send men in, Simo skis in with a squad, mows them down at their campfire. And this goes on for months. Simo just straight up farming the Russians for XP. And by March of 1940, the Russians grew impatient and they launched a major attack. And Simo said that the Russians just kept coming, just wave after wave.
They have the numbers.
Meat wall tactics of, I'm going to march my men into your gunfire until you run out of bullets, and hopefully I've got more.
It's the only way the Soviets can win this.
Simo's not up hiding at his
this is what the Soviets are going to have to do against Germany as well. Here in the next year, Operation Barbarossa is going to begin, where Germany is going to invade the Soviet Union. That's one thing the Soviet Union had was, you know, the people, meat shields, essentially. And this is how the Soviets had to do that. That's why they're going to die twice as fast as anyone else.
With his Mosin, there's too many Russians for that. He's on the front line leading a squad of infantry with his submachine gun, absolutely taking the fight to the Russians. Simo had actually said that he had heard rumors that the Soviets were using the machine guns on their tanks to basically force the men to march into gunfire, and if they wouldn't go, they would mow them down with the tank. And after seeing how many men were just coming straight at their lines, getting mowed down, Simo believed it. During this time, Simo set his all-time record for killing 40 men in a single day.
Jeez.
Simo continued.
So it's like, if you're the Soviet soldier, you're like, you're going to die no matter what. It's like, so who do you want to die by? The enemy, or in the back from and seen as a coward from your own people there? This was the Stalin stuff too, by the way. This is like what he was about. It's like, no, you're going in. I don't care who you are.
Continues to lead his squad into battle until on March 6th at 2 p.m. when he feels what he describes as a suppressed bang inside of his mouth. He then said that he immediately felt his mouth was full of bone fragments and blood before losing consciousness. Simo doesn't know this yet, but he has just been shot in the face with an exploding bullet, which has actually been a war crime since the 1800s. But, hey, so is launching a false flag event to invade Finland to begin with.
Once the war starts, nobody cares.
Simo is then scooped off the front lines and taken back to an aid station where he is triaged. Triage is the act of medics basically sorting out all of their patients to, the people that need to make it to the hospital right now on the next truck to have a chance at surviving, the people that can, lay here for a couple of hours and they'll probably be fine,
people that are
walking being wounded, and the final category, expectant, which basically means they're dead or they're going to die before they make it to the hospital, and we're not going to waste the space on the next truck. Exactly. He is literally thrown into a pile of other dead Finnish soldiers. We don't know how much time passes, but eventually somebody ends up seeing Simo's foot moving in this, what is now a mass grave. They then end up getting Simo out, they get him to the hospital, and he's in a coma for the next 7 days. He then wakes up in the hospital on March 13th, 1940, the very same day the Soviets sign a peace treaty with Finland, effectively ending the Winter War. Coincidence? I think not.
You're supposed to be dead.
Okay, now obviously I'm being facetious, but for real, there's a greater than a 0% chance that the Russian military got a memo like, hey, we thought we killed the White Death, we were wrong, he just woke up, and the Soviet Union is like, fuck this, I'm out. The Finns have the Terminator on their team. There's no other explanation. The dude has to be hacking, okay? He's got over 500 confirmed kills at this point by running around in the hills, no-scoping people, and then we shoot him in the face and he still doesn't die.
If I remember right, does he have the highest kill count or whatever of the war, maybe ever? I don't know enough about the specific numbers about these guys, but this is always a guy that came to my mind for that. 542 confirmed kills.
Not only that, it was an exploding bullet, literally a war crime because it's so deadly, and the dude just takes a 7-day nap about it, and now he's going back into combat. No, we're done. Sign the armistice. Winter War's over. We've had enough.
Oh, there he is. Look at that. He got
is actually messed
up. Look at him. See that?
About it, and now he's going back into combat. No, we're done. Sign the armistice. Winter War's over. We've had enough.
That was so funny. Look at that. He's got like whole jaws just gone. Damn.
Now, the war ending is actually great news for Simo because now the hospitals aren't constantly under the threat of getting overrun by Soviets or getting hit with artillery, so they're going to actually be able to get him the surgeries and care that he needs to make the best recovery humanly possible. He spends the next 14 months in the hospital where he undergoes 26 reconstructive surgeries on his face and jaw. After those surgeries, Simo makes a pretty good recovery. He gets released from the hospital. He is released from his military duties, and
like
unfortunately, part of the armistice between the USSR and Finland is that some of the lands that Finland had got relinquished over to the USSR, including Simo's farm. So the Finnish government actually gives Simo a new farm with a house roughly the same size, same type terrain, as close as he can get back to his old home. And from there, he just goes back to doing what he was doing before. He's farming, he's
holding it.
He get back to his old home, and from there he just
was this kind of his form. I know usually you're gonna put your hand up further on the stock and everything, but was this his style, like, of shooting? Interesting.
Goes back to doing what he was doing before. He's farming, he's hunting, he's walking around in the woods by himself. He just goes back to doing his thing. For his service, he was awarded the 1st and 2nd class Medals of Liberty, the 3rd and 4th class Crosses of Liberty, and in 1941, he was nominated for the Mannerheim Cross, which is the Finnish equivalent of the American Medal of Honor. But unfortunately, that medal didn't actually get conceived until 1941, which is after Simo's service. So a lot of the paper pushers inside the Finnish government denied him getting the Mannerheim Cross because I guess his service was before that award existed. So that wouldn't make sense. So he never actually got the Mannerheim Cross, but the man deserved it 1000%. The final stats for his short time in combat were 542 confirmed kills, 249 of which were from his Mosin Nagant with nothing but iron sights, and the rest were from his submachine gun. Now these were from his Mosin.
249 without a scope, and again, it's not close combat; it's sniper fire. 249. So about half of his kills without a scope against other people that are aware of him that are also snipers.
Nagant with nothing but iron sights, and the rest were from his submachine gun. Now, these stats have been criticized by both, historians in academia and internet comment sections today, aka a bunch of people that weren't actually fucking there, but these stats are validated by both his company commander and his company chaplain, the people that were there. And if that wasn't enough, which it should be, but just in case you think it's not, in 2017, well after his passing, his nephew stumbled across Simo's personal memoirs that he had never published, never let anyone else see, that he had written down down for himself. And in his personal writings, again, to himself, that he never tried to get published, that he would have absolutely no reason to lie on, he says that he killed well over 500 men. But ultimately, Simo didn't, and probably wouldn't to this day if he was still around, care what you thought, because he wasn't doing it because he wanted the glory. He just went back to farming. He led a humble life. He didn't want to be known as the White Death. He just wanted to be left alone. That was his happily ever after, just living on a farm, doing his own thing, and that's exactly what he got. Okay, worth noting, he passed away in 2002 at the age of 96. The Soviet Union fell in 1991. Okay? Simo Häyhä took the fight to the enemy to a degree that no other singular human ever has in the history of the world.
He outlasted the Soviet Union.
Shot in the face.
He literally outlasted the Soviet Union. Born before it, and then died after it fell. Well, yeah, way after it fell. And you could say maybe played a role. That's how devastating that was. I mean, how World War II was.
Human ever has in the history of the world.
Wait,
and
what do you say?
To a degree that no other singular human ever has in the history of the world. And then he gets shot in the face with an exploding bullet. Again, a literal war crime. Shrugs it off and then proceeds to live longer than the country that he went to war with. That's gangster as fuck. And that is the story of Simo Häyhä, the White Death, the farmer's son that rose to the occasion, defended his country against all odds, showing the enemy the true meaning of Sisu. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Whack bang, out.
All right, it was great to hear the Simo Häyhä story again, and to hear it again told in his way. You could tell, obviously, that Fat Electrician really respects this guy for what he did. Plus, he was killing the commies. So, a perfect story for him to be able to bite into. So, but that was cool. I learned some more details and some of the more specifics about him and a couple of other tactics I did not know that he had used. I mean, it's great. Just insane story to hear about. So, thanks again, everybody, for watching this, and we'll see y'all next time.